Imagine a single, quiet thought currently sitting in your mind, waiting to become your biggest mistake. We often believe our character is solid, yet a single moment can shatter a lifetime of honesty. Like a microscopic crack in a massive dam, one small lapse in judgment eventually leads to ruin. Is it truly possible to remain honorable for years only to lose it all in a second? Every choice we make begins as a tiny seed planted deep within the soil of our values. When greed takes root, it chokes the very principles that once guided our path toward the light. We must wonder if we can trust our own minds when the stakes of life become high. A single spark in a dry forest does not seem dangerous until the entire horizon begins burning. In the shadows of our desires, the line between integrity and total self-destruction becomes dangerously thin. Consider the story of a man named Jake, whose potential future was grander than he ever imagined. He was destined for greatness, standing on the threshold of becoming a true heir to the throne. The king intended to adopt him, offering a life of dignity far beyond his current humble state. Yet his values were tested when he encountered bags of gold that didn't belong to him. In that instant, a single greedy thought overshadowed the bright future the king had carefully planned. Instead of becoming royalty, Jake chose to run away into the darkness with his stolen treasures. He traded a crown for a bag of coins, never realizing the immense scale of his loss. This one impulsive act changed the course of his existence and left him with eternal, heavy regret. We must ask ourselves if we would recognize the moment our own destiny hangs in the balance. One thought, one choice, and one mistake can permanently erase the person you were meant to be. To see how one thought destroys a future, we must look closer at this man's desperate life. Meet Jake, a young man who called a quiet, dusty town his home many years ago. This small village was a place where time seemed to stand still for those with empty pockets. Have you ever worked your hardest and still found yourself with nothing but tired bones? For Jake, every sunrise brought a familiar weight of sadness that never truly lifted from his shoulders. His life felt like a treadmill that never stops, yet never moves an inch forward toward progress. Inside his small home, the only thing thicker than the cold was the heavy silence of isolation. Every morning he walked the cobblestone streets, searching for any hands that needed a day of labor. His boots were worn thin, much like the hope he carried in his increasingly weary heart. On the best days, he earned just enough coins to keep the wolves of hunger at bay. Despite the constant struggle, honesty remained the foundation upon which he built his difficult daily life. Back in his kitchen, he would carefully prepare a simple, meager meal with his hard-earned savings. The steam from a thin soup was often the only warmth he felt in that hollow space. As night fell, he collapsed into a restless sleep, only to repeat the cycle once again tomorrow. It was a relentless loop of survival that tested the very limits of his enduring human spirit. Deep within his mind, the seeds of a single, dangerous thought began to take root and grow. He wondered if greed was the only escape from the values that kept him in poverty. He was a man with the dignity of an heir to the throne, but the pockets of a beggar. He saw others taking shortcuts while he remained tethered to a path of exhaustion and misery. He was an honest man, but hunger has a way of testing even the strongest of hearts. The darkness of his situation was about to invite a choice he would later deeply regret. Then, on a day like any other, the routine of Jake's struggle finally broke. He walked the long, familiar path home, his pockets empty and his spirit feeling defeated. After another failed search for work, an unexpected figure appeared at the edge of the road. An old man sat there, looking out of place among the dust and the common travelers. Beside the stranger sat 3 large, heavy duffel bags that seemed to weigh down the earth. To Jake, this chance encounter felt like a lifeline thrown to a desperate, drowning man. This mysterious traveler carried an air of hidden wisdom, neither a beggar nor a wealthy noble. He looked up and explained that he needed help reaching the next village by nightfall. If someone offered you a month's wages for an hour of walking, would you ask why? The old man held up a shimmering gold coin, promising 3 in total for the help. Jake stared at the glinting metal, realizing this small fortune could change his entire life. Our thoughts as seeds often begin as simple desires before they grow into something much larger. Without hesitation, he agreed to the task, ignoring the strange weight of the bags before him. He reached down to lift the first bag, surprised by how dense and heavy it felt. Unbeknownst to Jake, this first heavy burden was actually filled with hundreds of bronze coins. Every step toward the next village felt like a test of his honesty and his physical strength. At this moment his values were steady and his heart was focused only on the job. The old man walked silently beside him, watching Jake's every move with keen, piercing eyes. But deep within, the first quiet whisper of greed began to stir in his weary mind. He didn't know that he was the heir to the throne of a much greater destiny. Small choices today often lead to a lifetime of regret if we lose our way. 3 bags for 3 gold coins seemed almost too good to be true. But as they reached the rushing river, the weight of the task changed in an instant. The water swirled against the rocky bank, marking a difficult milestone in their long, dusty journey. Jake and the old man stopped at the muddy edge, staring at the deep, treacherous currents ahead. The old man paused, his voice trembling as he spoke about the danger of the crossing. He claimed that carrying 2 heavy bags into the deep water would surely make him drown. How much is your integrity truly worth when your muscles are already screaming for a rest? Looking desperate, the traveler offered Jake 3 more gold coins to carry the additional burden across. Suddenly, the lure of greed began to sprout like a dark seed within Jake's tired mind. He had to choose between his core values and the tempting promise of even greater wealth. As he took the second bag, Jake noticed the distinct, heavy clink of many silver coins. The physical strain increased, testing the young man's resolve as the river's cold spray hit him. Every heavy step in the water felt like a thought as a seed taking root deeper. Could he act like a true heir to the throne, or would he fail this test? Sweat mixed with the river water as the weight of the silver pulled at his aching shoulders. He wondered if the extra gold was worth the risk of losing his way so early. The rushing water seemed to whisper warnings of regret that he chose to ignore for now. Jake pushed forward, his breathing heavy as the current tried to sweep his feet from under him. In this moment, simple honesty was being traded for the heavy, metallic clink of shiny silver coins. The old man watched carefully, ensuring the precious silver bag stayed well above the rising water. Every muscle fiber burned, yet the thought of 6 total gold coins kept his legs moving. The second bag was much heavier, but the reward for his struggle was finally doubling. Jake was far more than a simple laborer. He was a man defined by past moral battles. Is it truly harder to be honest when you are comfortable, or when you are completely desperate? Long before this rushing river, Jake faced a different kind of storm in a small loan company. His days were once spent within quiet walls, carefully managing records for every single client's loan. Accuracy was his duty, and his pen never strayed from the cold, hard facts of the ledger. But one afternoon, his manager approached him with a request that chilled his very core. They wanted him to deliberately lie, altering a client's loan record to favor the company's greed. A single dishonest stroke of the pen would have secured his position and earned him favor. Instead, Jake realized that every thought is like a seed planted in the fertile garden of his mind. If he nurtured this lie, he knew it would eventually grow into a harvest of deep regret. Honesty was not just a policy for Jake. It was the core foundation of his entire identity. Without a second thought for his own financial safety, he chose his values over his paycheck. He walked away from that desk, quitting his job rather than betraying the trust of a stranger. That moment of integrity transformed him into the true heir to the throne of his own character. Now, as he balances the heavy weight of these bags, that same internal battle begins to resurface. Greed whispered that the extra money was worth any cost, but his soul knew the heavy price. He had protected innocent people from lies before, standing tall when it mattered the most. Could he now protect himself from the quiet, deceptive lie growing in his own mind today? The river roared around him, but the loudest sound was the echo of his own past conviction. Every step forward was a choice to remain the man who refused to sell his honesty. The reward for honesty isn't always gold, but a conscience that remains clear and untarnished. He stood firm in the water, remembering the day he walked away from that corrupt loan office. He had protected others from lies before. Now he must protect his own soul from greed. Why does a man with a golden past find himself suddenly standing at the edge of ruin? To understand Jake's current struggle, we must look back at the honest man he used to be. Years ago, Jake held a position of absolute trust at a local, small-scale loan company. As the record keeper, he was responsible for every ledger and every penny that passed through. His world changed when a superior demanded he lie about a client's loan for corporate profit. Jake refused to compromise his values, choosing to quit his job rather than betray his conscience. That single act of honesty once crowned him as an heir to the throne of virtue. But past victories provide no shield when new, dark thoughts as seeds begin to take root. We often forget that integrity is a muscle requiring constant exercise to maintain its vital strength. A triumph from years ago cannot protect the heart from a sudden, fresh wave of greed. This history of goodness makes his current temptation feel like an even more tragic betrayal. How could a man who once sacrificed everything for truth now consider such a heavy lie? It reveals the terrifying reality that our moral character is never truly settled or safe. The weight of his past honesty now hangs over him like a cold shadow of potential regret. If he fails now, he loses more than money. He loses the very identity he built. Every choice we make today is a fresh battle, regardless of how many we won yesterday. Jake is discovering that the seeds of greed can grow even in the most well-tended gardens. His previous strength only serves to highlight the painful depth of the fall he now faces. True character is not a destination, but a difficult path we must choose with every step. As he stands by the river, the proud echoes of his past honesty begin to fade. After crossing the Russian River, a steep and daunting hill rose up to meet the weary travelers. Then came the looming hill and the ultimate test of trust for a man like Jake. The old man stopped at the base, leaning heavily on his staff while staring at the peak. With a weary sigh, he claimed he was simply too old to carry the heavy weight upward. He looked at Jake, entrusting him with the third and most mysterious bag of their long journey. Within its worn fabric, the old man whispered, lay a fortune in shimmering, solid gold coins. Could this be the chance Jake needed to reclaim the life he thought was lost forever? Greed is a quiet companion, waiting for the perfect moment of weakness to make its grand entrance. The old man instructed Jake to climb the hill alone and wait patiently on the other side. Every value Jake ever held was suddenly hanging in the balance of this one simple request. Like the serpent in the garden, a single tempting thought began to take root in his mind. Honesty is easy when others are watching, but true character is revealed when we are entirely alone. As Jake shouldered the heavy bag, the metallic clink of gold echoed like a siren's haunting song. He began the climb, feeling the weight of the treasure pulling at his resolve and his soul. Thoughts as seeds can grow into a forest of regret if they are not carefully tended today. What would you do if you held a kingdom worth of gold in your very own hands? Jake was now the temporary heir to the throne of a fortune he did not rightfully own. The old man watched from below, his eyes fixed on the young man ascending the grassy slope. Every step toward the summit felt like a step further away from the man Jake once was. Isolation has a way of amplifying the whispers of our darkest and most selfish inner desires. This hill was not just a physical obstacle, but a testing ground for his core human values. Would he arrive on the other side with his integrity intact or lose himself to greed? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that seemed to dance around the bag of gold. Now Jake stood entirely alone on the other side with a literal fortune in his hands. The thought finally took hold, a poisonous seed blooming into a decision that would change everything. Greed whispered in his ear, promising a life of ease if he simply turned and ran. He looked back once at the old man, but his values were already crumbling under pressure. Can you ever really run away from yourself when your conscience follows every single step you take? Jake tightened his grip on the heavy straps, choosing the weight of gold over his own word. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, he deserted the old man and sprinted into the dark woods. Every branch that clawed at his clothes felt like a reminder of the honesty he left behind. He carried all 3 duffel bags, his heart pounding with the frantic rhythm of a desperate thief. The path home seemed longer than ever, fueled by the cold fear of being caught or stopped. He was chasing a mirage in the desert, fueled by a hunger that no gold could satisfy. Finally, he reached the safety of his small home, locking the door against the world he betrayed. The thoughts he planted as seeds were now bearing a heavy, suffocating fruit within his walls. He imagined shimmering gold, silver, and bronze coins waiting to transform his humble, dusty life forever. Was the gold ever the point, or was this always a test of the man within him? Hands trembling with excitement, he knelt on the floor to claim the prize he had sacrificed for. He tore open the first bag with a jagged breath, expecting the blinding glint of pure gold. Instead of wealth, a pile of gray, lifeless stones spilled across the floor with a hollow thud. Panic surged through his veins as he frantically reached for the second bag, praying for silver. Another heavy thud echoed in the room as more common stones tumbled out of the canvas. Desperation took hold of him as he ripped into the final bag, searching for signs of bronze. Nothing but small, worthless stones greeted his gaze, mocks of the fortune he thought he possessed. The silence in the room became deafening as the weight of his regret began to sink in. He was meant to be the heir to the throne of his own character, yet he failed. The treasure he traded his soul for was nothing more than the cold earth beneath his feet. He didn't find wealth. He found the weight of his own betrayal in the cold moonlight. Why do we believe a single moment of greed can erase a lifetime of honest struggle? Jake stood at a crossroads where his values collided with a desperate need for instant escape. He convinced himself that this one betrayal would finally solve all his lingering, heavy problems. It is a common human trap to think that shadows can lead us into the light. For years, Jake's daily life was defined by a relentless cycle of sadness and difficult struggle. This constant hardship acted like a blindfold, obscuring the long-term consequences of his sudden choices. He saw those 3 heavy duffel bags not as a test, but as his ultimate rescue. In his mind, the seed of greed had grown into a forest that hid the truth. The myth suggests that shortcuts exist, but the truth is that every shortcut has a price. As the old man waited, Jake gripped the handles and felt a surge of cold adrenaline. He didn't just walk away. He ran through the darkness, clutching the bags to his chest. Deserting the old man felt like a heavy victory, yet his heart hammered with sudden fear. He believed he was running toward freedom while actually sprinting deep into a cage of regret. Every step away from the river was a step further from the man he once was. We often imagine that wealth obtained through betrayal will somehow taste as sweet as honest earnings. But honesty is the foundation of a character that can actually sustain true, lasting success. Jake thought he was finally claiming his place as the heir to his own throne. Instead, he was becoming a servant to the very greed he thought he had mastered. The weight of those bags grew heavier with every mile, fueled by the sting of betrayal. He had traded his integrity for a handful of gold that offered no peace of mind. Think about your own life. Which thoughts are currently acting as seeds for your future self? A single decision can dismantle years of moral progress in the blink of a desperate eye. Jake was now a man alone, haunted by the memory of an old man left behind. The path of least resistance often leads to a destination that nobody truly wants to reach. He had chosen the bags over his soul, a trade that never ends in favor of the man. But the heavy stones hidden within the worn bags weren't the only thing waiting for Jake. What if the very burden Jake tried to avoid was actually his invitation to greatness? His fingers brushed against something thin and crisp, tucked deep beneath the rough, gray surface. Curiosity flickered through his guilt as he pulled a small, sealed parchment from the dark corner. The ink was gold, shimmering against the dim light, signaling a secret far more valuable than gold. With trembling hands, he broke the seal, unaware that his entire world was about to shift. The words on the page didn't speak of labor or luggage, but of a crown and kingdom. This was no ordinary traveler. The weary old man was actually the mighty king of the land. Beneath the rags and the dust lived a ruler who governed every valley and every hill. The revelation hit Jake like a physical blow, turning his momentary greed into a cold, sharp regret. He looked back at the man he had deceived, now seeing the authority hidden in his eyes. The note explained a truth that the kingdom had whispered about for many long, lonely years. Their ruler was aging, yet his throne sat empty, waiting for a lineage that did not exist. With no family to call his own, the king faced a future where his legacy might vanish. He had no heir to pass his wisdom to, leaving the fate of the people in uncertainty. This entire journey had been a silent, desperate search for someone worthy of a royal title. The king wasn't just looking for a porter to carry bags through the mud and the rain. He was hunting for a man of true integrity, someone whose values could weather any storm. The bags of stones were never a burden. They were a carefully crafted test of a man's heart. He needed a person who prioritized honesty over ease, and truth over the temptation of a shortcut. The prize for passing this simple test was far greater than any wage Jake had ever imagined. The king intended to adopt the honest traveler, making him a son and a future sovereign. A life of poverty could have ended in a palace, surrounded by the respect of a nation. But the note in Jake's hand now felt like a death warrant for his brightest possible future. He realized that by dropping his values, he had dropped the keys to a magnificent kingdom. The weight of his betrayal grew heavier than any bag he had carried up the steep hill. His thoughts, once seeds of hope, had bloomed into a harvest of bitter and lasting disappointment. Every choice he made in the shadows was now illuminated by the light of the king's truth. He stood alone on the path, clutching a piece of paper that represented everything he had lost. The old man wasn't looking for a porter. He was looking for a son. In that moment, Jake finally realized the devastating and true cost of his desperate shortcut. The old man's words hung in the air like a heavy curtain of cold, stinging rain. Every muscle in Jake's body froze as the crushing weight of his decision began to sink in. He looked at his calloused hands, now empty of the very things he thought would save him. The greed that felt like a solution was actually a poison that had withered his entire future. He had mistaken a royal invitation for a simple burden, failing the ultimate test of his character. Had he remained honest, the humble porter would have been officially adopted as the king's son. A crown was within his reach, yet he chose to run away with bags of worthless stone. The throne was his for the taking, but he traded a lasting legacy for a momentary gain. It was like throwing away a priceless diamond simply because it looked like a common dusty rock. This quiet realization cut deeper than any physical wound he had ever suffered in his life. How many kingdoms have we traded for something that turned out to be completely and utterly worthless? His values, once his greatest strength, had been abandoned on that steep and treacherous hill of temptation. The thoughts he planted as seeds of deceit had now grown into a harvest of bitter regret. Every step he took away from the path was a step away from his true royal destiny. He stood in the silence, feeling the immense gravity of a life that might have been different. The sunset cast long shadows over a man who had lost everything by trying to gain a little. Integrity was the currency of the kingdom, and Jake had spent his on a lie that failed. He saw the king's eyes not filled with anger, but with a profound and heartbreaking disappointment. The chance to be an heir was gone, replaced by the cold reality of his own choices. His heart felt like lead, heavier than any bag of stones he had carried across the river. A single moment of weakness had erased a lifetime of struggle and hard-won honest labor. He realized that true wealth was never in the bag, but in the man carrying the burden. The kingdom he could have ruled was now just a fading dream in the twilight of his soul. He traded a glorious and eternal kingdom for a few worthless stones and a lifetime of regret. This isn't just a story about a king and a thief. It is a map of your mind. You might believe fate decides your life, but the truth is far more intimate and quiet. What thoughts are you carrying right now that could be steering your entire life off course? Every single action you take in this world begins with a tiny, invisible seed of thought. Like Jake standing on the hill, we all harbor private ideas that slowly grow into our reality. Before greed leads to ruin, it begins as a small suggestion whispering softly inside your own head. When these thoughts gain strength, they naturally find their way into the world as spoken words. Your words are the first physical manifestation of what was once just a hidden mental spark. Once a thought is spoken, it gains a weight that demands to be expressed through your actions. Small decisions like choosing a heavy stone over honesty are merely actions born from those words. Every choice we make acts as a ripple, turning temporary behaviors into something much more permanent. When you repeat these actions over time, they solidify into the unbreakable patterns we call habits. Habits are the silent architects of character, building either a throne of gold or a cage of regret. These daily routines become the engine driving you toward a destiny you may not even realize yet. Eventually, your habits gather momentum and begin to shape the very foundation of your entire future. Jake didn't just lose a kingdom. His habits of compromise ensured he was never the heir. Which bag are you about to run away with in your own life's great moral test? A single moment of greed can erase a lifetime of values if we lose control of thoughts. We must guard our minds, for the seeds we plant today determine the harvest of tomorrow. Because the future isn't something that happens to you, it is something you build, one thought at a time. How do you stop a single moment of greed from defining your entire future? The secret lies in understanding that every massive outcome begins with a single, tiny thought. Think of your mind as a fertile garden where every fleeting impulse acts as a seed. When a dishonest thought enters your mind, it is like planting a poisonous vine. This philosophy teaches us that thoughts are never idle. They are always preparing to grow. Once a thought is nourished by attention, it naturally begins to blossom into spoken words. You might notice yourself making excuses or twisting the truth to justify it in desire. These words act as the bridge between your internal world and the external reality. If you don't check your words, they will quickly solidify into your next physical action. Every choice you make is a physical manifestation of the dialogue happening inside your head. One small act of greed might seem harmless, but it sets a dangerous precedent. When you repeat these actions, they forge the iron chains of your daily habits. Habits are the patterns that define who you are when no one is watching. Ultimately, these deep-seated habits are what shape the final destination of your entire life. You are the architect of your destiny, building it one tiny decision at a time. To avoid Jake's regret, you must learn to catch the impulse before it takes root. The next time you feel a surge of greed, pause and visualize the final harvest. Ask yourself if this momentary shortcut is worth sacrificing your integrity and your future self. Values are not just words. They are the shields that protect our future character. Honesty begins the moment you refuse to let a deceptive thought stay in your mind. By changing the seed, you fundamentally change the person you are destined to become. Instead of falling into regret, you can choose to be the heir to the throne. Guard your mind fiercely, for your thoughts are the true architects of your life. Every honest choice builds a foundation that no storm of temptation can ever break. Today, you have the power to choose a thought that leads to honor rather than regret. If you want to protect your future, you have to start with your very next thought. Every choice begins as a small, quiet whisper deep within the hidden chambers of your mind. Just as Jake learned, these thoughts are seeds that eventually grow into the life you lead. You must decide today if you will nurture the values of honesty or the weeds of greed. A single moment of weakness can turn a worthy heir to the throne into a man of regret. Guard your heart against the shortcuts that promise much but steal your true character instead. Real wealth is never found in a bag of gold, but in the integrity of your daily walk. Ask yourself if the path you are taking reflects the person you truly wish to become today. We often forget that our thoughts are the architects of our destiny and our ultimate inner peace. Do not let a fleeting impulse erase a lifetime of hard work and honest struggle right now. Remember that the heaviest stones we carry are often the consequences of our own hidden choices. Choose to be the master of your mind rather than a slave to your sudden, desperate desires. If this story of the king and the laborer touched your soul, consider joining our growing community. We explore these timeless lessons to help you navigate the complex moral landscape of modern life. Subscribe now to ensure you never miss an opportunity to reflect on your own inner journey. Your support allows us to continue sharing wisdom that strengthens character and inspires genuine growth. Take a moment to share this lesson with someone who might be facing their own personal crossroads. Together, we can build a world where honesty is valued more than any temporary shortcut taken. Stay vigilant over your mind, for it is the most sacred ground you will ever truly own. Let your values be the compass that guides you through every rushing river and steep hill. Each sunrise brings a new opportunity to choose the high road and leave all temptation behind you. The strength to resist a shortcut today builds the foundation for a legacy that lasts forever. Watch your thoughts closely, because they are the silent directors of the movie of your life. Thank you for spending these reflective moments with us as we seek wisdom in the ordinary. Until next time, keep your heart honest and your mind at peace in everything you do.